And we're all, as I like to put it, going home with all this bag full of goodies, as it were, to take home and show the local boys how much you've learned and what you can do. The only problem is that when we do this, we forget something that happens, as again on the way to the store, that we don't expect. What's that? Well, if you know about it, then you can have fun. It's where you don't know about it is where it gets dangerous. And that is that we become addicted to being human. And so after we exit this particular life sojourn, we're saying instead of going home and what I call having escape velocity to go home, something's happened in living that life. We've picked up a load factor. There was friction along the way, and that represents it. So instead of moving out and having escape velocity, we start turning along that, and it's our decision, no one else's. That's the important thing, our decision. We say, well, I think I'll go back just once more. And this next time, I think I'll be a male instead of a female. That ought to be more fun. Just once more, and then I'll go home. So what happens is, instead of moving this way, we loop around and go back being a human again, and go back and have another human experience, another lifetime. And we come out again, and we're already this time. But this time we've had even a greater load factor, don't you see? We've slowed up a little more. We haven't got the speed that we did. We have a greater load, and so we're now in orbit, and we have a decaying orbit, because when we come up around the orbit like this, instead of going on, we say, oh, I got to go back because I've never seen Paris, and I'd like to go to Paris for once in my life, and I'd like to just go there. So whole purpose to go back and live again so that I can go to Paris. And I've heard so much about Paris, I want to go to Paris. So I'll go and live again so I can go to Paris. And as you can see, each time you pick up in each succeeding lifetime a greater load factor, so that as you go through this, your orbit decays more and more as you go through this, living these successive lives until you get locked in tighter and tighter and tighter, till you are locked in being human so tight that you forget where you came from. You've lost all of the desire to even depart and go home. You've lost it all, because this is so overwhelmingly addictive that you can't think of anything else but this time, space, physical matter, all the things that take place in there. And no matter how hard you try, you can't get away from it. And the reason being, there's no law, but when you, quote, die, and instead of going home, you make the decision. There's no law that says you have to stay here. You are the one who says, I gotta go back. I didn't eat enough steaks. I didn't have enough strawberries. I didn't have enough children. All these kinds of things. Or I didn't have enough sex. Anyway, that's how we lock in as being human. In so doing this, now the next trick is, well, what happens? Well, why don't we recognize this more and more? Because we are so deeply addicted. So we develop an excuse, which you call belief systems, to rationalize this process. But it's all done in this local traffic human terms. This is the difference. As a result, somewhere along the way, you begin to find cracks in the belief system. You begin to find reasons that don't work quite well. That's the analytical thing coming into it. It says, hey, wait a minute, something wrong here. This doesn't work out. 2 and 2 makes 6. No, wrong. Try again. You begin to find out that there are some holes in the cracks, and that's when you begin to regrow and begin to, so that successively you begin to start on your way out again, and you begin to have a higher and higher orbit as you learn more, and in these successive lives, till finally you got escape velocity, and then you do go home. And that's what it's all about. It's our decision, no one else's. That's the important thing. Our decision. I went and got home, and here were these that I remembered so beautifully. They were huge, roiling clouds. And the clouds had many, many different hues, bright colors within them, shifting like rainbow colors all through them. And you could lie in the clouds and just observe this spectacle of change. And it was not all round rolling. There were cubes and everything else, all sorts of types of different types of symbol forms flowing round and through this. And you lie there and it's so beautiful. And then as you were there, and I'm using time-space terms to express it because it's the only way you can do it. And as you would lie there, you would hear this tremendous music. And I interpreted it as music, but it was something else. But it was, of course, a form of vibration. But it expressed itself to me in music, beautiful, beautiful music, like a massive symphony orchestra, beautifully conducted. And over here was a magnificent choir of 1,000 human voices, and you're listening to all of this. And in this return quick visit, I lay back in the clouds and looked at these beautiful patterns and heard this exquisite music. And I perhaps might have stayed there forever, except what I had grown, and that was my left brain. Because I was lying there and I looked at something and my attention got caught. And what was it? And I looked again, perceived again, and it was right. Here was a pattern of clouds that went like this, for example, and then went on. And if you waited long enough, that same pattern of clouds came along and it went like this and went on. It was a loop. It was a continuous loop. It was nothing new in the loop. The same thing came back again and again and again. And I then listened to the music. And sure enough, here's a beautiful melody line going. And if you waited long enough, the same instrument and the same melody line will be repeated. And with that, I sat up and had a great sigh of, and because I realized that then I knew why I had left home. Because I was bored. There was nothing new to learn there. I was curious. And I was bored with watching the clouds do the same thing forever and listening to the music do the same thing forever, and I didn't want to stay there any longer. And that's why I left home.